Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Employee Baltimore Tuesday edition show, where our objective is to help job seekers better their attempts to find employment and to better themselves in the workforce environment. My name is Paul Finley. I am a career development facilitator here with the Mayor's Office of Employment Development. And before I go any further, I would love to introduce my co-host today. If you would, if she is available.
Hello, my name is Shama Lane. I am also a career development facilitator with the Mayor's Office of Employment Development.
All right. And again, welcome. And we thank you for taking your time and you braved the snow and the ice to drive all the way here to the Employee Baltimore show to be a part of this presentation. And we just are happy to have you here. I know that we were hoping that the Pittsburgh Steelers would lose last night, but unfortunately they won. But we still have a game Sunday. We want to go out with a bang, so we're rooting for our Ravens. So go Ravens!
Go Ravens!
Yeah, there you go. Well, today, I want to start off by telling you, giving you a quick update that our centers are still open. We're still available to assist you with your job searches, with training opportunities, and however we can do that in this environment. I want to just bring to your attention that jobs are still being posted. We're still posting jobs. One of the places that you can find those postings is the Maryland Workforce Exchange, and we'll have a slide that tells you how to do so. But that is the mwejobs.maryland.gov. That's mwejobs.maryland.gov. And then you can also check out our now hiring board, and that's located at moed.baltimorecity.gov, moed.baltimorecity.gov. And again, you'll see that at the bottom of your screen right there, you'll see the MWE jobs as well as our job board. Listen, that's a great resource for you. It has a lot of the updated jobs and a lot of training information that you can plug into some jobs that you might not be aware of, or some employers that you might not be aware of the fact that are hiring right now. But please plug into that and get your friends, get your family members to go out and to apply for some of those positions as well. If you read down in those job descriptions, it'll tell you exactly what you need to do and who you need to contact so that you can be one of the first that apply for those particular jobs. And then, hey, we're here to assist you in whatever you need assistance with in preparing for those employment opportunities. That's what we're here for. So you need to use us. You want to add anything to that, Ms. Lane?
Yeah, definitely. Check us out. We have a lot of jobs, and we're ready to get you connected to our business service reps to try to get everyone employed.
Awesome. At the end of the day, we are empowering families. We are empowering communities, not just for jobs, but we want you to get into careers so that you can be the better you. All right. So our assignment today in this Tuesday job board focus is to help the job seeker become effective communicators. Our presentation today is concerning effective communication in the workforce environment. Again, effective communication in the workforce environment. All right. We're just loading up the screen here, our slide here, so you can see that. Next slide, please. Okay, and we went over the places where we are listing our current jobs and employment opportunities. Next slide. All right, so let's talk a little bit about our objectives for today. We won't hold you long. Don't worry. Don't be afraid and nervous. We won't be here for hours, but we want to give you some very useful information that can assist you. But our objectives today, number one, we want to define the impact of effective communication that effective communication has in the workforce. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the key elements of the communication process. We'll go into the three types of communication mediums. We'll describe some of the dangers of becoming emotional at work, because that can be a little bit tricky if you're not careful. And then we'll discuss the importance of effective written communication at work. Next slide. Okay. The first thing I want to tell you when you're talking about effective communication is that there are two primary communication channels. There are two primary communication channels. First, there's formal communication. And then if there's formal communication, then there must also be informal communication. Next slide. So what is formal communication? Well, formal communication is the process of exchanging information by following the prescribed or official rules, formalities, or chain of command in the organizational structure. If you look here at the slide, one of the things, I'm going to go back one. Our slides got a little mixed up there. That's fine. We'll go back to the formal communication if you could. Our producer's working hard to get that done for us. There we go.
There we go.
And one more. There we are. So when we're talking about formal communication takes place within your department, your division, or throughout your company. Next bullet. And it says here that it can occur vertically or horizontally. Well, what does that mean? That means it can occur amongst your peers. Okay, information can go back and forth amongst your peers, or horizontally, meaning it can go up the flagpole in your chain of command, or it can come down from the top to the bottom, so that everyone in between is made aware of what's taking place or what's happening in that particular organization. So that's what we consider formal communication. Something that's on letterhead, something that's a formal document from the organization. And then if you look here, you'll see what it says, informal communication. That's the second one, informal communication. Informal communication is the exchange that occurs outside of the official communication process of an organization, such as formal messages or again, documentation that's on the company letterhead. Next bullet. It says here that it occurs among individuals without regard to formal lines of authority. Okay. Next bullet. And then it says an example. It says while eating lunch with friends or through the grapevine. Now, this is very important. How many of you all have ever heard of water cooler talk? Have you ever heard of that, Miss Lane? Water cooler talk?
Yes, I have.
I think they call it the tea, y'all. I think they call it the tea. She taught me that word. She said, "This is the tea. This is what that means." So I didn't know that before Miss Lane taught me that, but she taught me that. Now, listen. While informal communication can be effective, you might hear about changes that are coming. You may hear about updates that has not come officially through the chain of command. You got to be very careful of informal communication because sometimes informal communication may become gossip. All right. And if it becomes gossip, then it can be a problem. You got to make sure that you're taking the information that's important and leaving the information that's not important alone. So take that for what it's worth. So there's two different types. There's informal and there's formal communication. And by the way, while I'm talking to you, if you just look at the bottom of our screen, you'll see the MOED website that you can go to check our current job board opening. So you'll see that at the banner at the bottom part of the screen. Just check that out if you will. Now, I want to talk very quickly about the communication process. And you'll see there's three different areas. There's a sender, there's a receiver, and then there are barriers. Next bullet point. The sender, that's the person that's sending the message in the communication process. He or she wants to send or convey a particular message of some sort. Next bullet point. All right. So that sender must determine what method they're going to use to send that particular piece of information. What do we call that? Next bullet point. It's called encoding. It's called encoding. Encoding is identifying the message and how it will be sent. So it's identifying the message and determining how that particular message will be sent. Well, let's jump over to the receiver. Now the receiver has to decode that particular message. when you decode the message, the receiver interprets the message. That means they give meaning and understanding to what was sent to that particular person. Next bullet point. Okay. Then once the receiver has decoded that particular message, they send feedback based on their interpretation back to the sender. Okay. And the feedback is usually an indication of whether or not the receiver has properly decoded the message. Okay. All right. So then comes barriers. So in between the encoding of the message by the sender and the decoding of the message by the receiver, barriers can occur. Okay. Barriers can cause the process to break down. Okay. You sent the message and you thought it was going to be effective the way that you sent it, but barriers can cause a breakdown. So that means the sender must clearly identify the particular message that he or she is sending. Okay. Sometimes it may be a good idea before you send the message out and you're in the work environment is to have somebody else to read over it to make sure it's saying what you thought it said. And then based off of that feedback, you might need to make some changes. You might need to make some tweaks to that particular message before it's sent. You want to add anything to that, Ms. Lane?
No, it's important to have a second set of eyes. It always helps to make sure that you haven't missed anything.
Right. And sometimes even as a receiver, you may read a particular message and you may get one interpretation of that message, but then you may say, hey, what did you think about what was sent out? Did you understand it the way that I understood it? I always call Miss Lane and I just ask her, hey, what does this mean? Because I don't understand. So, and she helps me out. But that's why it's good to have a good partner that can assist you with that. All right. So what do we call those barriers? We call those barriers, last bullet point, noise. Everybody say noise.
It's some noise.
Yeah, we got to be careful of the noise because the noise can get in between. The noise can cause problems along the way. Next slide. So I have here a little diagram that illustrates what I just mentioned to you. If you look on your far left, you see that there is the sender. Okay. The sender encoded a message. They determined how they were going to send that message out. Okay. And then you'll see it says decoding. All right. So the receiver had to decode that message that was sent from the sender. And if you follow that arrow up and to the left, you'll see it says feedback. So once that receiver receives the message that was sent, they send feedback to the sender. All right. That could be good, bad, or indifferent. They could say, I received it, or they could say, for example, please clarify. Okay. And if they say, please clarify, obviously they don't understand exactly what was supposed to be conveyed in that particular message. Now, look at the bottom down there. You'll see that in between the sender and the receiver, noise can get in the way. All right. And when noise gets in the way, okay, that can interrupt that particular message and the message that was supposed to be sent. Next slide. Boom. So from there, we want to talk a little bit about the noise. And at this time, I'm going to call on my co-host to carry us further.
All right. Identifying noises, anything that interrupts the process. The sender is not a strong communicator. Next bullet. Can be audible or in your mind. And what are some examples? So the sender is not a strong communicator. Possibly, maybe they could be too soft-spoken, or they could just be too loud. And the message is just not getting across. It's not getting across to the person who's trying to receive the message. Again, it's always good to have that second set of eyes or ears to step in to kind of assist with trying to receive that message. Maybe there could be something going on in that receiver's mind at that moment that they can't exactly hear or see what it is that's trying to be displayed to them in that very moment. Hearing the speaker but not really listening, going in one ear and out the other. Your thoughts may wander during the process. You could become distracted. So those are different ways that noise can kind of interfere and interrupt that process. Next slide. The communication medium. You have verbal, nonverbal, and written. Bullet, please. For verbal, you have basic vocabulary. Someone who's not as educated, maybe speaking very minimal words, not really being able to get their point across. Developed vocabulary, someone who may have a little more education. Sometimes they can be a little more arrogant speaking, and it can be a little irritating at times with some people. They might just like whatever, like don't want to hear it.
We've never heard
So
about anything. Yeah.
yeah, so you want to stop and you want to just listen to what's being said. Then for your nonverbal, body language, which is very important. You can just tell when a person is just totally uninterested. Yeah, they're just like all over the place, not paying you any mind, messing with their fingernails, playing with their hair, things like that. Eye contact, don't really want to look at you, looking at everything else around you, not really paying any attention. And those are some different things. Emotions, like Mr. Finley said previously, your emotions, a lot of people let that get away from them at work. You will be excessive or passionate about certain things. And it's always important to kind of keep that under wraps, especially at work. You do not want to let your emotions take over when it has something to do with work stuff, because you may be passionate about it, but you don't want it to go too far, someplace that it can possibly get you in trouble. So you want to be careful of that. Written conveys your aptitude and attitude and ensure the correct message is being sent. So you definitely want to be careful with your messages when you're communicating, how you're writing them, making sure that you're putting just enough information, not too much information. You also want to be careful that you're not shouting or screaming within the message, because that can happen as well, depending on your choice of words and the way that you prepare your written documentation. A lot of people will know that all caps is kind of like shouting at someone. So you want to be very careful of that.
And can I add something there, Ms. Lane?
Absolutely.
The other thing I would add to that, especially under that verbal and the nonverbal, know your audience. Know who it is that you're trying to get the message to, and be able to speak to that level where you need to speak to, that you're not over the top or you're not so far under that it would go, like you mentioned, in one ear and out the other. Know your audience.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, next slide. Forms of written communication. You have the business letter, the business memo, the business email, the thank you notes, documentation, and telecommunication. And all of these forms are important. You want to know who you're writing to, making sure that your documentation within any of these letters, memos, emails, or notes, that you are making sure that your punctuation, making sure that when you're speaking, you're not shouting, making sure that you have everything, your grammar is correct. And also nowadays that we're using a virtual communication, which is also something very important. You hear a lot of people are now using this. It's really like to communicate. We communicate in different various platforms, like we are now using a live. And then you also have like Zoom and WebEx, different platforms. So while using these virtual platforms, you always want to display your virtual etiquette as well, even though it's not like you're not writing it out, but you do have your PowerPoints like we have today. So you want to make sure that everything is in tip-top shape for when you are communicating virtual as well. And also your background, your noise, and other interferences that could interrupt. You want to make sure that if you are somewhere and maybe the place is not in tip-top shape, maybe blur out your background so that as you're communicating with your audience, they're not distracted by everything that's going on behind you.
Right. Could you talk a little bit, Ms. Lane, about the interviews now using like Zoom, and is that happening? Zoom and Cisco WebEx?
Yeah, so like even with your interviewing practices, that's still a form of communication. You want to make sure that when you are communicating with the employer, you want to make sure that you're dressed appropriately, because that says a lot. It speaks volumes about, what job you're interviewing for, and also just being prepared for the questions that they have, and like the distractions, the things that are around you. If they're distracted by what's going on around you, your kids running around, you definitely want to make sure that those things are taken care of and properly put away before you start.
Right, right.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, Paul, I'm gonna pass it back to you for the
All right,
summary.
all right. Thank you for passing that baton back to me. Yeah, and I just want to piggyback on what Miss Lane said. Is so vitally important, especially in 2022. And Happy New Year to everybody, by the way, if we hadn't said that already. Uh, but a lot of employers nowadays are using the Zoom or WebEx platform to conduct interviews, as opposed to bringing you in person. You'll sit in front of a computer screen like we're doing today, and you'll have to answer questions. And you have to be mindful of all of these things that Miss Lane is saying. Check your microphone, check your lighting. Make sure that you're not coming on right at the time that they're asking you to come on, and then now you're checking your microphone to make sure it works. Work out all of those little kinks and things of that nature beforehand. All right, so let's talk a little bit about a summary of the key concepts that we discussed here today. First bullet. Number one, effective communication is necessary for workplace success. If you want the organization to succeed, it is very important that you have effective communication. Would you agree with that, Ms. Lane?
Couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah, it's very, very frustrating that if you don't have a good stream of information going back and forth amongst those that are part of the organization, no one can get the job done. No one can get the job done. Next bullet point. The goal is to create a mutual understanding between the sender and the receiver. Next bullet point. It is important to consider the right words to increase the chance of successful verbal communication. Listening and silence are effective tools for effective communication. That means taking the time to properly decode the message that's being sent. But you can't do that if you're talking at the same time. You have to listen to what's being said, and then you can add your input. Yes. Would you agree with that, Ms. Lane?
I agree. Process that information.
That's right.
And then respond.
That's right. All right. Next slide. Listen, effective communication brings the team together. That's what you see in that little huddle there. In the football team, you see the team come together in the huddle. But effective communication brings the team together to ensure that that organization will accomplish the mission that it has to accomplish. But if we are not together, if we don't come together and effectively communicate, we cannot accomplish the mission.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Always has and always will, Miss Lane.
That's right.
Next slide. Next point. Listen, improving your communication skills is an ongoing process. Let me say that again. Improving your communication skills is an ongoing process. We got a lot of tools to do that nowadays. We have technology that's increasing by the second almost. And then you can also work on yourself. What are you doing? Ask yourself, what am I doing in the self-development framework, so to speak, to improve my ability to communicate properly? And there's online courses that you can take. There are a lot of free tools that you can take advantage of. We'll help you with that as well. We have free resources that you can plug into to help you and to assist you in becoming a better communicator. And everybody needs a good communicator on their team. Yes, would you agree, Ms. Lane?
Yes, I do.
All right. Thank you again. Now, let me just pause here. Let us pause here to see if there's any questions that we have, Miss Producer, in the background that we did not see that we need to address. I don't know if I see any. Have you seen any?
I don't see any questions either.
I guess we did a little, sort of good job. All right,
Great.
Ms. Perdue, thank you. Thank you for being a part of the this discussion today. Hopefully you got something out of that. Yes, great topics. Happy New Year. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Rant.
you.
All right, appreciate you joining us today. That's Miss Lawrence. You want to read that a little bit, Miss Lane?
Yes. Hi. Happy New Year. I'm interested in medical office assistant training and different skills soft certificate programs.
Awesome. Listen,
Okay.
plug into us. Plug into us. Go on that website. Plug into one of our centers. Let them know, hey, I'm
Absolutely.
interested in training. They'll tell you exactly what you need to do, what kind of paperwork you need to gather,
Yeah.
what kind of documents you need, and we'll get you plugged in. We'll get you plugged in.
Yes. And check out the message at the bottom from the Mayor's Office of Employment. We can definitely help you with that.
All right. All right. Hey, again, thank you so much for being a part of this discussion with us today, Miss Lane and I. Again, we appreciate you braving the
We
weather to.
appreciate you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Listen, sometimes you just need to hear that you are appreciated. You're doing a good job. Hang in there. It's going to get a little bit better. Just keep pushing along. Lock arms with us, and we'll lock arms with you that we make this a better Baltimore.
Yes.
Have a great day.
Have a great day.